We're joined all the way from Houston, Texas, by my friend, Dr. Maxine Madison, their environmental risk advisor with ConocoPhillips. We thank you so much for joining us. This is our computer science engineering class. I got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools. Germantown, Ridgeland, Madison, Old Town, Shirley Simmons, my good friend Angela Jordan, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule for us today.
Mhm. Thank you so much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Now, before we get into all the interesting things you do, because it is really cool, all the great work you're doing and continue to do and have done, just take us back. You're originally from Roxy, Mississippi, down in
Yes,
Franklin County, very small town, and
yes, yes,
you were a high school classmate of our friend Mr. Zumbro, the principal at Germantown High School. And then that led you to go to Mississippi State and then Texas A&M. So take us through your educational path because you were the first to do a lot of things.
yes. That is true. That's true. So yes, I'm from small town, Roxy, Mississippi, 500 people. A lot of folks have not heard of it, especially if you're not from Mississippi. So it's close to Natchez for those that don't know where it is. But yes, went to school in Franklin County, 18 years. I graduated as valedictorian. Our friend Natalie was salutatorian, Cody was number three. He almost got there, but yeah, so I did that, and actually, one of his relatives, my chemistry teacher, was Mr. Zumbro. And so I loved chemistry class. And so he was the one who suggested I try chemical engineering because I had never heard of it before, didn't know
Wow.
any engineers. Yes, and I knew I didn't want to necessarily sit in the lab all day as a chemist. And so he suggested engineering. And back then, there was no internet. I had to go to the library and look it up in a book, what is chemical engineering. and so he had also been to Mississippi State. So I found out Mississippi State had a great engineering school. And so I applied to Mississippi State and was accepted. And so I majored in chemical engineering and graduated from Mississippi State in 2002. Had a great experience there. And then my last couple of years at Mississippi State, I began thinking about what I wanted to do. I had a co-op experience with Ergon Refinery, which
Wow.
is a small, yes, refinery in Mississippi. Um, and so I liked that, but I didn't think I wanted to do that full time. And so I was talking with some of my professors, and there was a professor that I admired that had gone to Texas A&M, and she actually was the first Black female to graduate in any engineering at Texas A&M. She was industrial engineering, and so then I decided to go to Texas A&M and major in chemical engineering, and I focused on biofuels research. And so then I became the first Black female to graduate with a PhD
Wow.
in chemical engineering. So from Texas A&M. So
That is, that is an unbelievable accomplishment, and I know you're still proud of it, and you should be to this day. Now, for our kid, and like you said, you didn't know about chemical engineering, you didn't know about the field, but I think something I've learned since I've started doing this, chemical
mhm.
engineers touch pretty much every single thing that we use every day. And
Yes.
you, because like this water bottle here, a chemical engineer had a hand in bottling this bottle. So talk a little bit about what chemical engineers do, because obviously we think chemistry, the chemistry lab's blowing up stuff, but that is not the case.
Right. No. Yes. Chemical engineers do a wide range. I feel like it's one of the most diverse engineering disciplines you could go into, which is also another reason why I was drawn to it, because I knew if I didn't like one thing, I could try something else. But chemical engineers work in cosmetics industry. They work in the food industry, Lay's, Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola. They of course work in oil and gas. They work in chemicals engineering, chemicals industry like Dow, Eastman, all of that. They can typically work almost anywhere. It seems like you say, our carpets are made of petroleum products, and like you did the plastic bottle, petrochemicals. Yeah, so we just touch a wide range. Of course, our Mae Jemison was a chemical engineer. A lot of people don't know. I got a chance to actually meet her one time at a chemical engineering conference.
No
Yeah,
way. That's awesome.
picture with her. It was awesome. So she chemical engineering background, first Black astronaut in space, female astronaut in space. And so yes, chemical engineers can work in aerospace industry too. So just a wide range.
Yeah, and something, anything that uses paint, we had the big Nissan plant here in Canton. That paint has to be mixed by a chemical engineer. And then something that I've learned, when you see the pipes coming out of a plant that have the smoke coming out of it, the height of
Yes.
those pipes is determined by a chemical engineer because of the chemicals coming out of the plant. I did not know that, but that is something that everybody depends on to be safe in any type of work environment.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. The flare stacks and all of those things. Yes. Yeah. We safety is huge in chemical engineering. And so that's one of the reasons why I like my job here at ConocoPhillips is because we have a huge focus on safety here. And so I've worked here, it'll be 18 years in December. So coming up
Wow.
on 18 years. Yes, it's crazy. It doesn't seem like it. But it's been a good experience.
Now, something you just mentioned was about how you didn't want to just be in a lab all day or didn't want to be in an office all day. I think, and this is why I really encourage these kids to look into engineering because you do spend some time in the office working, looking at calculations and pictures and things of that nature. But you get to get out there and get the hard hat on and get to the project sites. And you get to, before you came on, we were looking at some of the big drills and big machines that
Mhm.
ConocoPhillips uses. You get to be out there working with these people in the field. So it really is a great mix of outdoor and indoor work.
Yes, yes, that's true. We hire a lot of chemical engineers as environmental engineers, or you could actually get an environmental engineering degree. But yeah, one of the focuses there, which is kind of linked to my job, so I can talk about it a little bit, is that we need engineers to go out and see about emissions. Are there leaks at our facilities? And we have special infrared cameras where you can be out in the field and point the camera at a
Wow.
device and see whether there's leaks occurring and be able to then go back in the office and come up with calculations that can estimate the volume and make sure we're staying within our permits and everything. So yeah, I think it is a good mix of being able to have desk work, your office work, looking at spreadsheets. I do a whole lot of spreadsheets, so yeah, you're going to need those Excel skills, but also being able to, like you say, put on my hard hat, my steel toe boots, and go out into the field, talk with the people that are actually, turning the valves and everything, making sure that everything's operating as it should.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that when you talk about talking to the people. But one thing I wanted to talk about also is, we may have some kids that say, look, I'm really interested in working in this type of field, but I'm not really sure I want to go to college. I'm not really sure I want to get the 4-year degree. But a
Mhm.
place like ConocoPhillips hires a lot of skilled trade people that may have
Yep.
this that may have the certification as a mechanic. They may have uh, a machinist certification. So talk about some of the trade jobs that are very lucrative and very needed in places like ConocoPhillips.
Yes, yeah, yes. But there are two of them that I can talk about. One of them is what we call our MSOs or multi-skilled operators. So these are the operators that are in the field, the ones that are actually turning the valves. If we have to clean out a tank or something, they're the ones that are making sure it's done safely and actually doing the work. And the amazing thing is that I had a really great supervisor a couple of years ago, and she actually started as a MSO. So she started straight out of college, MSO, not a lot of hands-on experience at the time, but now she's the manager now. She's been with the company 30 years. So you can start off in a job that's more trade based, but then you can work up your way if you want to switch and go down a professional, a business track, you can, or you can stay in something like that. Another good place you could get started is working out on the rig. Like you said, y'all were looking at the drilling rigs, these huge rigs that are very expensive to operate, and so we pay people a lot of money to be out on the rig to get the work done as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. So yeah, we have the rig hands, drilling engineers, of course, as well. on there, but also people that need to be out there physically turning the pipe and switching out the pipe in between sets. So yeah, those are also very, very lucrative jobs on the drilling rigs.
Yeah, and I always use the example of my uncle who works for Noble Energy, one of you guys' competitors, but he
Yeah.
started out, he went to community college at Pearl River Community College, started working on the rig off the coast of New Orleans, has worked his way up within the company, and now he's has a management job, and he's out of the country half of the year making great money. He's been in
Mm-hmm.
China, he's been in Africa, working in the petroleum industry, and there really is a lot of room for advancement for people that want to learn this business.
Yes, yes, it is. And that's one of the reasons why I love my job and I feel like I've been able to stay here is because there's lots of room to there's lots of space for promotion. But then too, if you want to become an expert, what we call a subject matter expert in your field as well, you can stay in that same role. So there's a lot of diversity and versatility there, which is why I have really enjoyed my time here. I've had about, I don't know, 10 different positions, it seems
Yeah.
like since I've been here, just basically changing every 2 to 3 years. And so yeah, the world is your oyster. There's no limit.
Now, and I agree. Now, one thing, these kids may be saying, well, petroleum, all I ever need that for is put it in my car. What are some other major things that petroleum is needed and why we need skilled people to get into petroleum engineering? Because it is used for so much stuff that we might not even realize.
Yes. Well, if you had breakfast or any meal today and you had to turn on the oven, that was gas. Could have been gas, it might have been electric, but for gas power ovens, that's the oil and gas industry. We refine, we drill for oil and gas, and so the gas products end up in a lot of different places in our oil products as well. And so backpacks, for instance, that's petroleum based. Even parts that go into your cell phones, petroleum based. Like I mentioned before, carpets, paints, all of those things are petroleum based. And so it's not just the fuels, although fuels are critical and a big part of it. But it's also a number of other things, such as providing a means to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, and also for if you ever want to get on a boat, if you're the cruise ship industry, the airline industry, they depend on these petroleum engineers. They depend on these petroleum companies. People cannot travel. The military
Right.
cannot operate. So it is so critical. This
Yeah.
petroleum industry. I know ConocoPhillips has a great partnership with the U.S. military for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their transportation needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Yes. You said it's aviation. It's all manner of transportation, and so yeah, it's hugely critical for our world today.
Now, I wanted to come back to something that you said a second ago. You talked about
Mm-hmm.
how when you're at the project site, you have to communicate and you have to talk with other people on the team. And I think I can speak for all the teachers that will see this later in that
Mm-hmm.
this generation as a whole has a big problem with communication skills. Because I've got
Yeah.
some very intelligent, I've actually got all young men in here with me today, but I've got some very intelligent young men in here with me today. But I would say the biggest challenge for all of our kids is that they can be on the TikTok, they can be on the Instagram, and that's fine. I'm not knocking it. There's celebrities I like following too. But
Yeah.
that is, we have gotten away from being able to speak and being able to communicate and being able to articulate to customers, to coworkers, and to employers. And that is vital, especially if you're at a project and you don't communicate correctly. You just said about the safety issues. It could cost people a lot of money. It could cost
Yeah.
people somebody's a serious injury. So how important is it, whether you're going into engineering or not, to start learning
Right.
these communication skills to be a good employee when you get out of high school?
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the things I've been able to do the past couple of years with my job is to be a recruiter. As I'm one of our engineering recruiters now, particularly recruiting at our National Society of Black Engineers conference, but at other schools as well. And so that is one of the key things we as recruiters look for, when someone comes up to us and tells us they want to work for us is can they talk? Can they hold a conversation with me that sounds professional and they're not using a lot of and all of the filler words. Can they talk? Can they complete their thoughts? And so for some people, it might be practice on, you got to write it out first, write it out before you go up to somebody. And then you have that practice of knowing, I know I want to say these kind of things. So just getting that practice and finding someone you can practice interview skills with. Those are critical. But even like you say, beyond trying to get hired, once you have your foot in the door, once you're in the company, then communication does remain critical, because you have to be able to let your coworkers know your piece of the pie, because one person can't do it all. We all have to work on teams. We call them multidisciplinary teams. Like I'm working on a team maybe with an electrical engineer, or maybe with an accountant or a lawyer, someone that doesn't have my particular expertise, and I have to be able to talk to them in a way so they can understand what it is that I'm doing, so that we don't make a mistake that costs the company hundreds of millions of dollars, or that puts our reputation at risk, or that costs somebody their life, a safety incident. And so yeah, it's very critical.
Yeah, and you mentioned something else I want to talk about real quick too, is you mentioned the National Society of Black Engineers, the NSBE chapter. I know Mississippi State has a huge one. I went to LSU. LSU has a very large NSBE chapter. And that's what I really want to encourage as kids start deciding to make college choices.
Mm-hmm.
Even, that's two great student organizations. You can be a great student. You can have a 4.0. You can have the number one content knowledge of anybody in your class. But if you have
Mm-hmm.
no student organizations, no networking, no connections, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding that career. Because you mentioned your internship with Ergon. I'm sure that was
Mm-hmm.
because of the student organizations you were in while you were a student at Mississippi State. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about what NET does and what some of the other student organizations for engineering students does. Do they have chapters at Jackson State? They have chapters at Ole Miss. So let's talk about some of those.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So NSBE, an excellent organization. I was a part of NSBE when I went to Mississippi State, but there are chapters pretty much at every college or university that has an engineering school. And so it is an excellent organization because it teaches you leadership skills. It's a student-run organization. So students actually are the ones that plan a national conference. Last year, the conference was in Atlanta, and it was about 50,000 attendees, I want to say,
Wow.
that attended this conference. And the career fair was huge, over 200, probably more, 200 vendors there. But the students actually organized the whole thing, which is very impressive and different from a lot of other engineering organizations. But that was one of the things that I loved about NSBE when I was a part as an undergraduate, was that I could participate in leadership roles. I believe I was secretary, but they have membership chairs, and they have, community service chairs, and just different. Of course, you can be president, vice president, and all of that, but they have a lot of different ways to get involved. And then NSBE also mentors younger students, middle school students, and so they have that arm of the organization as well. And so it is very critical. I tell anyone going into college to get involved in extracurricular activities. Like,
Yes.
even if you can't be a leader in if you can't be the treasurer or president or anything like that, still get involved on a committee or something, but have something on your resume, whether it's NSBE or whatever your particular engineering is. If you're in engineering, like American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or just the student organization, the like the Black graduate student organization that I was involved in as a graduate student at Texas A&M, or just there are so many different ways that you can get involved at your universities, but that develops leadership skills. And it is something that recruiters, not just at ConocoPhillips, but anybody is looking for, to make sure that you're well-rounded, that you're not just books. You're not just smart person on paper, but that you can have that potential to be a leader by being involved in organizations. So yeah, it's another critical area.
Big time. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get to their questions
Mm-hmm.
is, you mentioned about yourself. You were the first Black woman to get the PhD in chemical engineering at Texas A&M. And
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm finding out and what we're learning from a lot of our guests is that there's a huge need and a huge push to diversify engineering and tech jobs, just to have more people at the table. It's
Mm-hmm.
It's not to push people out, but it's to include
Right.
more people. I mean, we've got technological changes in every field. We've got AI working in your field. We've got robots working in your field. We need young people to learn these things now because
Mhm.
it's not, and the media love to say that robots are going to take our jobs. No, the skills needed are going to change. So we need a
Mhm.
diverse group of skills and a diverse group of people to get into these jobs as technology changes. So why should all of these kids who could say, look, I'm just a black kid from Mississippi. I can never do this. Why should they really
Mhm.
consider trying to get into these?
Yeah, the thing that I love, one of the things about Houston even is that it's a diverse place. It's, a melting pot. Lots of international people live here. And so there is a richness in any work product when you have a diverse team working on that product, because when you have a diverse team, then you have diversity in thinking. And my experiences are different from your experiences. My experiences are different from many other person's experiences. And so when you have a diverse group of people, you're able to come up with solutions that you may not have thought of before, just because someone else had an experience from growing up in another country or growing up in another state or another neighborhood. And I feel like everybody wins when we are more inclusive and try to seek out different different trains of thoughts from other people that may not look like us. So
Yeah. Now I forgot one thing, and this shows how humble you really are. But I forgot to mention you also are the holder of 9 patents, which has been critical in the way that petroleum is refined. And I even wrote it down, and I still forgot about it. So but that's also another reason why we need kids to get into this. They may come up with their own patent to improve on what you did.
that's
So
true.
just tell us real briefly about the patents you held and how you came to get those.
Yes, yeah. I love research, and so to me, I love being creative. And one of the keys is looking for whatever area you're in, looking for what's missing. Like, we're doing things this way. Could this process be improved? And so one of the things, like I was saying, the diversity and thought. I worked in heavy oil technology when I came up with a lot of these patents, and I'm not. Heavy oil technology is really for petroleum engineers, and that was not my background. My background was refining and oil and gas, and the downstream aspect, not the upstream, which is getting the oil out of the ground, which is what the heavy oil group was doing. And so, but because I had a different experience, then I could come up with this patent. We were working with another group of people that had expertise in radio frequency heating, and so able to get underground reservoirs at heated to very high temperatures. And so my input into it, and how we came up with this patent was that, okay, well, what if we kind of made it like a refinery underground and actually add catalysts
Wow.
underground to do in situ upgrading, or do upgrading and refining of that oil underground before it even comes out of the ground. And so that's one of the benefits, like I said, of having this downstream person who's more thinking about things from a refining chemical engineering perspective, having me on this team of folks that are used to just more traditional, just pumping steam underground to get the oil to high enough temperatures to be able to cause it to flow. By putting those two together, like A plus B equals C. And so it's always about, what else can I add to this equation to make it even better than what it was before. So
That's awesome, and that is so cool. I don't think I know anybody else that holds a patent, but you have 9 of them. That's so awesome. And again, that just shows how humble you really are because that's something I would have led with. But I have time for just a couple of questions. This person is Zarius Cooper. He's a senior, and he asked, when you realized you were the first black woman to get the master's degree in chemical engineering, did you ever realize how big that accomplishment really was?
no, and it was a PhD. I don't have a
Oh, I'm
master's, and
sorry.
so
Yeah,
I
I'm
did.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
I
fine.
can't
But
read.
no, I just wanted to make sure, since
Yeah.
I don't have a master's. So they have a program that you can skip the master's if you know
Wow.
that you want to end up with the PhD, and so that's what I did, and it saved me like half a year to a year. But No, I don't think I realized what an accomplishment it was, and I still don't think I fully do. I know others, can be impressed by it, but yeah, I think about all the hard work that went into it, the late nights, the wondering if I'm going to pass this test, and that kind of self doubt that creeps in, even for people like me. Like, do I really have what it takes? But just trying to maintain a group around me of people that supported me and were like, okay, you're here, you're in this space, of course you can do it, you're smart enough, you're good enough. And no, I don't know, maybe one day when I'm older I'll really think more about the impact. To me, I was just really surprised that that was in 2007 at the time that could
Yeah.
happen. That, wow, I'm the first Black female. Like, there weren't any other Black females before that wanted to get a PhD from that university. And even while I was in graduate school there were some Black females that were getting masters, and I would try to encourage them to stay for the PhD, but they didn't stay. And yeah, that was the main thing to me, was that it was just so surprising. So
That's awesome. Now, I like this one. This is Bryson Stevens. He's in ninth grade. And he asked, what is it you like so much about the oil and gas area that keeps you in it as opposed to other areas of chemical engineering?
it's a good question. So one of the things is that I consider myself a green person wearing a green shirt. I love green, so I'm environmentally minded, and so that's something that has stayed consistent, from my time at Ergon. And even as an undergraduate, my favorite classes were environmental law and environmental chemistry. And so I set my mind on working for oil and gas company to make them a better environmental steward. And I've stayed with ConocoPhillips because I feel like they walk the talk of not just talking about environmental stewardship, but really putting money and hundreds of millions of dollars into emissions reductions projects and everything. And so that's kind of what's kept me here, and why I don't feel like I have to go anywhere else. I feel like I can fulfill my purpose and my mission in life and be happy, because I'm able to do that green work for oil and gas. And then another thing as well is that oil and gas pays. They pay really well. And there are many other benefits as well. And so it's being able to know that I'm contributing to society as well. We all use cars. I know we're becoming more people are using electric cars, but airplanes, airlines, we still need aviation fuel and everything. And so yeah, just knowing that I'm contributing to helping to power civilization, it's something that I'm proud of and that I really like to do.
Yeah, but even electric vehicles are going to need petroleum to be produced. So they may not
To
be
make
burning them
supplies.
constantly, but the petroleum is still going to be needed to produce them. Well, we're
Exactly.
almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. But a couple things before we go. We didn't really have a chance to talk about it, but you do have a website with your book, and some of the other things. So just tell us about your website, where they can find it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so during the pandemic, I wrote a book called Miracles in the Making. And it's a devotional about the miracles of Jesus. It's goes through the 33 miracles of Jesus. And so they can go to my website, www.maxinemadison.com. And they can go and get the book. The book is also available on Amazon.com. And so that's ministry is very important to me. I'm also a minister. I have 3 boys. We all go to church together, and everything's a big part of my life. A big part of why I feel like I've been successful is because of God and His work in me. And so yeah, it's definitely go check that out if you get a chance.
Awesome. Now, the last thing before we go is you've talked about how chemical engineering touches so many things and how it's going to continue to grow. So why should these kids really consider going into this field as they start making college decisions?
Yeah, we're always going to need some type of fuel, and I know there are a lot of talks about renewables, and I have some experience in renewables as well. My research was in biofuels, but one of the things that caused me to change and go back to oil and gas was that the the volume of fuel that's needed to power the whole world just we wouldn't have enough based on renewable energy. And so definitely chemical engineers will still be needed in the oil and gas industry. But as I mentioned before, the food and beverage industry also employs chemical engineers. Cosmetics industry also employs chemical engineers. There are such a wide range. Chemical engineers can be doctors. There are chemical engineers that are lawyers. I know a couple of them from Mississippi State that, are patent lawyers and things like that. So yeah, chemical engineering, I feel like, sets a very good foundation for anything that you could desire to do. And then just having it as an engineering degree is going to demand a higher salary for you. So yeah, definitely encourage them to consider it.
That is awesome. Well, again, we thank you so much for fitting us in your tight schedule. I know you're very busy, but again, all the way from Houston, Texas, my friend, Dr. Maxine Madison, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to all your students.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, all right, thanks.
See ya.